Indeed, the most controversial topic in wrestling this week was, of course, the NXT invasion on Monday Night Raw. Now, when I watched Raw this past Monday and I saw CM Punk taking on John Cena, the last thing I expected was to see all those NXT rookies, the NXT 1, as we're now becoming familiar with. That's how they're going to go under, and indeed, that name is quite, I think, very much relevant. I mean, we have season 2 of NXT, but where did these guys come out of? Out of nowhere, it seems. They destroyed the ringside announce table and indeed beat up everybody. The King, Jerry Lawler, Matt Striker, they all got it.
Yeah, they all got it, and I don't think anybody saw that one coming. I definitely didn't. But after 3 hours of what was an okay Raw, I think the matches were good. Certainly the A-Team left a lot to the imagination. I think that was much fun across the board. More so probably with that chap from UFC or MMA who plays B.A. Baracus. I mean, Jesus. The less I heard about him, I think the better. But I thought it was going to be a long night with those guys involved. But thank God for the NXT Season 1 roster who really shook things up in style. And I got a good vibe of... hold on a second. We haven't seen something like this in quite some time. And yeah, I was down with it big time.
Silent, no commentary, dramatic moment at the end of a Raw. I mean, I couldn't remember the last one of those that stood out in memory. If I thought about it, I'd probably say that time when Jeff Hardy was up on the ladder feuding with Randy Orton at the time, and I think a dramatic jump indeed onto Orton from Hardy. It inspired that exact same feeling, and indeed these are the shocking moments that we wait for, those things that we don't expect. I mean, I just didn't expect to see guys like Justin Gabriel and indeed Daniel Bryan healing it up in such a fashion, and they all did very well. And personally, I thought Skip Sheffield, he stood head and shoulders above the rest, I thought.
Yeah, Skip definitely turning it up and turning the ruthless aggression, bringing it back in style, and really showing us just why we love old Skip so much, and really turning it up there, old Skip Sheffield. But yeah, a funny one from Daniel Bryan, I have to say. Even though it was kind of drifting along, maybe he just snapped too, and no real explanation given. But of course then we hear about the release, and what is it? Is it a work or is it legit? We still don't really know, but all indications seem that it's official. And a funny one, definitely a funny one.
Indeed, if Skip Sheffield gets top marks, I would have thought Daniel Bryan second position in that beatdown. He looked legit. I mean, Justin Gabriel didn't. He looked like he was trying hard, and he did that move off the top rope. But to be honest with you, that was all babyface stuff, and I have to think that Justin was holding back a bit. I mean, he wants the office to put him in a babyface position, you'd assume. I mean, the money certainly comes when you're in that kind of maybe Rey Mysterio bracket. And that's probably what the guy wanted. So probably a little bit controversial, maybe putting all of these guys on a heel side. They had their respective characters, but you know, the shock, the value out of such a thing like that, it's brought huge hits to WWE, all trying to find out about NXT now. Many people, I think, looking back at NXT who may have missed it.
Yeah, and it was good publicity, I think, for season 2 on Tuesday night, and that's not a bad thing, I suppose. But I think Michael Tarver was another one who definitely looked lost in the mix there, and just aimlessly looking for somebody to take out. And at one stage there, I think he almost took out poor Justin Gabriel, but quickly had to realise, hold on a second, he's part of my team, and kind of pulled back ever so slightly with that one. But yeah, I think Justin Gabriel, as you said, you know, he's lost in the mix there, playing up the heel, and his money's gone out the window, and he can kiss his merchandise out the window too. You know, his spot's taken. Evan Bourne, Matt Sydal, he's got that one wrapped up. So I think you know, maybe the team of Justin Gabriel and R-Truth might be a future spot for Justin, but as far as that big money merch deal, I'm sure it's out the window now for Justin.
It's very uncertain territory, isn't it? These guys, they had their place on NXT Season 1, and I gotta think they're now all fighting to stay on TV. They're all going to be looking to impress the office. They want to go on to Raw or SmackDown, or even have a place on NXT Season 2, which we know now that they probably will. But it looks to me like we're going to have some trouble here, because there are some good guys in that mix, but are there the spots? I mean, will these guys all get somewhere? I have to probably think that some of them are going to go back to FCW. I mean, fair enough, there's a whole new season of guys now. I mean, eventually we're just going to have a build-up of guys that maybe don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's quite a lot when you think about it. If you combine the first season and the second season together, and now that the second one is kicked off in good style, and it has some new kind of gimmicks going on there, especially with Caval and whatnot. It will be interesting to see what happens your Darren Youngs and what happens your Justin Gabriels, and then you've always got Percy Watson to rely on too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where these guys end up in 2-3 months from now.
Yeah, Percy Watson, we were talking about that guy about 3 months ago, and I think both of us were, impressed by the guy. He is a flashy FCW entrance, sort of a disco style guy, and I think they could do a lot of good things with him. Maybe he's going to be a comedian, something or other, babyface or heel, whatever they think. But Percy is a guy that we tipped quite a while ago, just like the Usos. But I mean, it's not rocket science. You just keep an eye on the FCW, and you can see all these guys a long time before they get to TV.
Yeah, you can, and I don't think we would have ever really picked Wade Barrett to be the winner of Season 1. But looking at Season 2, who would you put forward to be the main eventer, I suppose, going forward?
Well, I'm surprised, but I was worked by Caval. I mean, I didn't have any faith in the choice of the Lay Cool. I didn't think they could do anything, but seeing him on SmackDown, he's got a kind of an MVP style suit, and I think the Lay Cool thing is funny. I mean, maybe it's not perfect, but like I say, they've gotten rid of Daniel Bryan. Maybe Caval can step into his position. He could be perhaps similar size, and like I said, for Daniel Bryan, somebody is going to have to take Mysterio's spot eventually.
Yeah, this is it. But you do feel sorry for the Husky Harrises, I think, and the Eli Cottonwoods. I mean, they're probably going to end up in the Darren Young / Michael Tarver side of things. I can imagine they would anyway. I don't see poor Husky doing much. But then again, being Rotundo and having his old man still in the back, I'm sure he'll get the rub of some sort, and maybe come into the top 3 unexpectedly, kind of like a Heath Slater. But then again, the one-man rock band, not much of a future there, I think, either. But we'll have to wait and see, I suppose, won't we?
Indeed, the NXT guys very stiff at the end of Raw. Not any of those guys giving any care to the people around the ring. I mean, Jerry Lawler had a table thrown right over him, and I think even Lawler probably gave out about that. But these guys have to make that impact now. This is probably the last chance before being released. I mean, maybe 12 months ago, when you had people in FCW, quite often you'd hear of their release before you'd maybe even seen them. And this is the kind of thing that happens. Guys that look so promising, that maybe have this look, they quite regularly get released, and that's it, they're gone. But I mean, if you've got a situation where even John Cena this week, he came out and said on his Twitter that after a couple of days thinking about it, he couldn't understand this NXT naming policy. You mentioned Husky Harris, and I mean, wow, that just makes no sense.
Yeah, I think between Husky and McGillicuddy, it definitely leaves you wondering, as old John said, what is the story with these names? I mean, it's pretty bad stuff, and it kind of buries a guy a little bit when you have. I mean, Caval isn't exactly a superstar name, really, but it's a lot better, I think, than Husky Harris.
Yeah, I've always thought about this, because I don't think it's anything new. It seems a bit extreme that all of these guys have sort of had this name change and bad names, but I mean, I can remember back to when you had, your, what was the Wildcat, Chris Harris, when he went in. It was Braden Walker.
Braden Walker.
I mean, Braden Walker. That was an example of how they were giving those bad names all the way back there. But it probably does seem a bit much to have a Michael McGillicuddy and a Husky Harris when you've got those two family names and the legacies.